I'm opposite of what you would think of somebody or what our society, before we've started to kind of try to break the stigma, would look at as somebody as a user. I grew up in a normal, healthy household. My parents are married, so they were married there. I have 2 older brothers. It was a fun childhood. My parents were working class, but they provided everything I needed. I did sports and cheerleading and music, and I performed well in school. I was always on the honor roll, distinguished honor roll, student council, the class vice president at times. Within my high school times, I was one of the people that would experiment. I started experimenting, I think alcohol was first in middle school, and then marijuana. That progressed through high school. I didn't need to study, so I could party, they call it, you know. Always to the extreme. Back then there was no initiative for locking up medications, so we would get things from friends and family. I started experimenting with those and other drugs, and that got me through till the end of high school. I had scholarships to go to college. I was using powder cocaine at that point. I was doing Adderall and speed to stay awake and study. I didn't get a B until later on in my college career. I met a boy. He was like a bad boy. He was from my childhood. And so I just wanted his attention. And he filled a need that I had in my heart. And he partied. And so one day I went to his house and he had brought out his own stash. And so we used it. And it was through snorting, same as cocaine. So that first time that I had used with him, I did not know was actually heroin. I got really sick, violently sick, and I was just kind of out of it for a few hours. I love the feeling, like everything closed in on me and it was just me. But I wasn't anxious, I didn't have pain, I wasn't sad. I didn't even need the guy's attention anymore. I just felt numb and it felt good. By the 4th day, I woke up sick. At that point, I needed it, and it was just a downward spiral from there.
So this is a very complex disease that snuck up on us. This is not just people who are going down alleys and snorting heroin.
It's devastating. It's devastating our communities, families. You know, it's something that we've never seen before at this level. 2015
is when we really started to see how much of an issue we were having with the heroin. And, you know, you kind of looked at it and thought, well, it can't get worse. 2016 was worse than 15. And now 17 is worse than 16.
I've been coroner for 27 years. I've certified over 13,000 deaths. Nothing comes close to this. It is the greatest problem we have. It's not. It makes the medicine cabinet more dangerous than a gun in the house. We'll exceed 100 overdose deaths here this year. It's about 9 families a month we have to talk to about death. It actually has brought down the overall life expectancy of Americans. We're in a crisis mode. There's no doubt about it.
2017 turned out to be the worst year yet as far as our overdose deaths.
You know, I think people, the average person, is more informed on heroin, the dangers, and the fentanyl and overdosing than ever before, but yet the problem's worse. Now that just kind of defies logic, but that's where we're at right now.
It's a horrible crisis with lots of preventable death. Opiate use is out of control and being used for things that it was never intended for. First responders are being called on more and more to save people from themselves.
The situation is kind of dire. It's something that's ongoing. We deal with it on a regular basis. You know, we may go a day or two and not see anything, and then we may have 3 or 4 in one day. So the situation is especially challenging for EMS, but we're coping as best we can with that.
I'm going to take a listen to your lungs here real quick, okay?
First responders are essential into solving this opioid crisis. They are the ones that are on the front lines. They are the ones that administer the Narcan. They're the first people there. You know, and sometimes we don't give them any guidance. We just, you know, expect a first responder to show up and know what they're doing, but we also have to look at the humane aspect of what that first responder is going through. They're seeing daily they're seeing death.
There's reports of increased burnout related to repeated calls and the frustration that they feel. And there's even been reports of some post-traumatic stress disorder of providers when they get into scenes that involve children or other horrible things that you just don't want to think about.
I can tell you from personal experience pulling up to the parking lot of the local convenience store, having to pull the driver out of the front seat who is pulseless, not breathing, completely blue, with their 2-year-old strapped in a car seat in the rear. I've been to residents where I'm walking into someone's house for the 3rd time in the last month and a half, and the 8-year-old's meeting me at the door saying, "Daddy's not breathing again." This affects everyone, every walk of life. It is a profound effect on children because they're seeing their parents at their absolute worst moments, and they're left to deal with it. Sometimes it's that 8-year-old and the parent who's not breathing are the only ones in the house.
As first responders, medical personnel, we kind of get hardened by these calls, but it touches you when you go to a scene and, you know, it was like a preteen or a teenager. They were the one that found their mom passed away. It's hard to watch that because you know it's gonna affect them the rest of their life.
In this job, I honestly believe everything takes a toll on you, depending on what you're seeing. A little piece of you, a little chip of you is probably left behind everywhere you go. Now, no one likes to admit that, no one likes to say it, no one likes to believe it, but it's true.
It takes a toll. EMS in general takes a toll. These guys come to work, and when they leave, they go home to their kids. You know, they go home to their family life and dealing with the same problems that everyone else deals with. You know, mortgages and college tuition and paying bills and trying to carve out, you know, just a little chunk of happiness in life. And on the side, then they're dealing with everybody else's grief and issues, you know. So it becomes a very challenging part of EMS.